Global Church family. Welcome back to the ongoing conversation about international missions at Fellowship Bible Church, where you get a front row seat to hear what God is continually doing to establish His church around the world. My name is Emma Kate, and I'm your host for the day. And we have Scott McManigal and Jim Poole here with us to discuss what God has been doing in 2025. It's crazy that we're already at the point where we're looking back.
Yeah.
2025 just flew by.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, let's just dive right in. So, obviously, 2025 incorporated a lot of travel for you guys, but not near as much as 2024. But let's just have a rundown. Like, where'd you guys go? Who did you meet with this year? So, Scott, I'll come your way first with that.
Yeah, it started off with a giant conference in Uganda.
Okay.
The two main guys that we have, I guess, sort of partnering with, that we've had interaction with, they have a real passion to pass knowing God teaching on to their country.
Mm.
And the two of them, not really working together, but separate from one another, have been focusing on pastors and church leaders all around their country. And so the year started off with actually two big conferences in Uganda, one in Kampala and one in Jinja.
Okay.
And then from there, there was a conference in Nigeria, a continuation of what we've been doing there. We started with Knowing God with, just ECWA and EMS is just so huge in terms of organization and people and just the number of churches and leaders. And they have these, EMS field coordinators, which is kind of the missions arm of their organization of churches. And then they have ECWA, which is the church side. And so all across Nigeria, they have these different regional coordinators. And so, all the conferences we've done that we have done in Nigeria, which have been multiple conferences, there's still this group of regional coordinators in Nigeria that we missed, that weren't a part of any of the conferences that we've had. And so the teaching has so impacted the ones that we've had conferences with that they wanted us to also, target this other group. And so that's what that was about. And so then just, we have a process with, the training and the equipping that we do. It's foundational and there's a progression to it. And so, we usually always begin with knowing God and then we progress, into some of the epistles. And so it was the beginning of that process.
Okay.
And then I'm not sure how far you want me to get out on the list, but there's 12 or 14 different locations that we hit and trips that we made in this past year.
Yeah. So Jim, why don't you start talking about it? Because now as we're getting into like more the summertime, that's when it's not just you guys going, like there was the family camp and the youth trip to Kenya. So talk a little bit about how those are different when more people from FBC are able to come along for those.
Yeah, the family camp, it's a really great, like we've shared before in previous podcasts, it's a real great opportunity for folks from our church to be involved in cross-cultural missions, even here in the States, without having to, take a huge trip overseas. And the beauty of it is that people can come as families and be involved in ministry and serving and with the kids or with the youth or with the adults, either as a family or in that way. So yeah, it's a real neat opportunity. I think we've talked back, looking back, this is the third year that we've done family camp now, that it's allowed, I think, 150 or maybe closer to even 200 people, from our church, total number over the span of the 3 years to be able to be involved in missions in a way that they wouldn't have been able to previously. And so, yeah, that's been, I think, just really great for our church, for people to be able to have the opportunity to be involved. And again, like we've shared before, we're only with the folks that come from 6 or 7 different churches across the Dakotas, and some folks came. One church from Montana this past summer,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we're with them from Sunday evening through Thursday evening.
Right.
So we're really with them for full days, and so our goal is to just begin to give them a different view of God while we're together with them for those 4 days, and trust the Lord to do the best that we can for follow up. But if we can begin to just challenge their thinking of what they previously believed God to be like, thought God to be like, what the heart of God was like, just begin to give them a different view of God, and to spend time with the pastors and the church leaders that are there that have brought folks from their church. If we could, spending time with them to try to again enlarge their view of God, and then they can, Lord willing, take the content back to their churches and continue to teach the folks at their church that have come to the camp. So yeah, those are the two. I think probably the two main purposes. It's just a great time, and for those listening, we do have a meeting coming up actually in December. I can't remember the exact date, but if you haven't been to family camp before, it's an opportunity to being a part of what God's doing in terms of Native Americans within our own country and missions in our own country, and it's a neat opportunity. Yep.
Yeah. And then we got to go to Kenya with you guys on the youth team, and that was pretty incredible. So I think what's really exciting for us as the youth team to be able to come with you guys is we got to see a little bit of the beginning of the work and the middle, I guess you could say, because that first conference, it was with Kenyan pastors who weren't familiar. Like, this was their first time being exposed to this type of teaching. It was the first time meeting them. And so that was really exciting for our students and for the youth team to see. But then we got to see in the second week, as you're diving into Ephesians with the people that you've already walked through. So that was just, again, just an incredible opportunity to literally in 2 weeks' time see how God works and God teaches and God reveals more of himself. And so that was really, really a great opportunity for the students.
And then, so I'll pitch a question to you.
Okay.
I'll kind of trade house with you for a minute.
Yeah.
So we're talking about people from our church being involved in missions. And so not only did a number of youth go along, but a number of adults came along, parents came along. So you might have a better feel for the impact that the moms or the dads, the parents coming along with their sons or daughters. So, like, in terms of our church's involvement, people from our church going on a trip, what was some of the feedback you heard in terms of folks from our church being able to go on a trip?
Yeah, I think because we've talked about how FBC is different, how we do missions is different from most churches, I think it can be kind of hard to, well, our pastors just travel and do conferences. And so it's this like, they're going, but there's not really a complete picture because it's just so atypical. And so I think for not only for parents to go, but then to watch their kids be the one teaching, to be able to watch their kids, to watch God use their kids to proclaim truth, to proclaim God's love. That's why I like having parents be able to go, because what a gift, I think. Like, I'm so proud. They're not my kids, but I'm so proud of and excited to see God work through them. And then to give that, those parents then got the opportunity. And even parents who weren't able to go, like, it was Zoomed. So we had parents Zooming in to watch their kids teach who weren't physically able to be there. And so I think it just exposes you to how big God is, watching your child across the ocean in a different continent, but just share the love of God, and people just coming around and being like, yes, we understand this. And it just being, I don't know, it's almost hard to put into words, but just how cool and awe-inspiring that is. So.
I think another major part of the impact was the 10 months in advance that you were working with the youth and having them study through the Knowing God lessons and just that preparation time, not only of, what it did in their own life in terms of hopefully taking them to deeper levels of, seeing and understanding the heart of God and the
Mhm.
finished work of Christ, but also preparing them for the role that they had on that trip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was definitely a major component to it.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And it's exciting because a youth ministry, you don't always get to see the fruit. And I'm sure even for you
Yeah.
guys in doing, there are sometimes where you're like, we're communicating these truths and they're just not getting it. And so it's just a gift when you get to see God working and you get to see the fruit from that. So that's really
Yeah.
exciting. So, yeah. So we did that. That was end of July, August, came back, and then you guys weren't done traveling. You still had some more, because you guys then went back out to the Dakotas and took probably a very, very long road trip. How many miles did you guys say that was?
It's like 3,000.
Yeah, 3,000. Yeah.
3,000 miles.
6 days.
6 days.
Was it seven or nine different reservations,
Mhm.
something like that?
Wow.
Yeah.
And just continuing to establish relationships with Native American ministry leaders, meeting new people.
Yep. Meeting some new people. Also, spending the time with Chris and Miles, together in the car, all that time. I think, was really, really good. There's a lot of things we just got to talk about.
Yeah.
And I feel like God, used that time to knit our spirits with Chris together even more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was really valuable.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple new contacts in Montana that came as a result of it. And so, yeah, it just seems like there's the beginning of a momentum,
Yeah.
growing in our involvement with Native American ministry, and exactly, where it's going to go. And all. Like, one of the things we talked about with Chris on this trip was, because one of the places we went to is called Lame Deer, and it's about an hour and a half from Billings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a Northern Cheyenne reservation and church. The pastor that was the pastor there is in jail just because of abusing children. And so it's run a lot of people off. There's a lot of people now that don't want anything to do with the church. Chris, God's just really given Chris a real burden for that church. And it's like a 6-hour drive from him. And he and Elijah are talking about, between the two of them, each of them taking a week, a month, and actually making the drive to teach in the church on Sundays. But in talking about that church and its future, and, where do you find a pastor to put into a location like that? And then, when you begin to learn about just people's, the people on that reservation, their view of the church and their view of God and the opposition, and they talk about a medicine man in the area that has really strong medicine, and like that. That's even some of the lore, that is being spread around about the area. Like, Chris was warned by believers to not go in that area because of it. He said,
Wow.
"Yeah,
Wow."
and which he's not worried about
Right,
it at all,
right.
and obviously, but so that got us talking about the development of future pastors and leaders, and so like we were talking about, if we could find the right candidates that maybe from Indian Bible College that have that education in place, that we could bring here to FBC to intern for a couple of years, for us to disciple and ground even further in grace and the finished work of Christ. And then they go and spend a year or two with Chris in Lower Brule, actually interning in a reservation context, or in a reservation context, in preparation to being placed in a place like that you can't just send somebody there cold turkey, without the preparation. They both need to have a big view of God and grounded in grace, but they also have to have their eyes open to the hardship and the difficulties that's going to be come along with working in a context like that. So I'm really excited about that, and those conversations that we had, and just doors that and God might be opening, and who He might be raising up for this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember 2 years ago when the youth were in Arizona at IBC, and the president came and talked to us, and he was just sharing about Native ministry, and he said Satan has such a grip on Native peoples with all of everything, and so anytime believers he's like the spiritual attack and the hardships are so much because Christ is coming, he's trying to bring freedom, and Satan doesn't like that. So you're right, it's an intense work and a very hard work, but exciting that the Lord has brought FBC in connection with Chris and Kylie and just what God is going to do moving forward. So it's very, very exciting. So
to me, read through the Bible. The Old Testament and the Gospels is just filled with God allowing His people to be led into very, very, very trying, difficult, hard circumstances, all for the purpose of revealing Himself all the more.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's how I see these reservations and the stuff that the reasons that people give you for second guessing whether you're going to really be involved with Native American ministry or not is just because how hard it's going to be and how difficult it's going to be and how the opposition that exists. Well, these are opportunities to see the greatness of God all the more. And I just have to believe that, that's why God has even allowed those settings to get to the place where they, where they are. He's going to, I just think he's just going to use it to reveal himself all the more.
Yeah. Which is so exciting.
Yeah.
Because that's what we want. We want to see God even more.
That's right.
So.
Yeah.
And then one of your last trips, actually, you went back out to IBC and taught a class. So how did that go?
It was good. It was to the freshman class. There are 11 students in the freshman class.
Okay.
There were 9 in my class because 2 of the students are taking a smaller load, just kind of an on-ramp for getting to be part of the college there.
Okay.
Yeah, so we it's amazing. It's kind of funny. We have the Knowing God lessons, and then we adapt them to different structures and formats. And so basically, it was 8 hours. Is all that we had to do an overview of the meta narrative.
Yeah.
And the Knowing God lessons. But yeah, it was good. It was well received. The students seemed to appreciate it. There were 2 older ladies there that really seemed to appreciate it. I'm not sure if it was their life experience that they've gone through, which therefore just gave them more appreciation for their need for God in their life and where they've come from and seeing the need for it and the need for a bigger view of God and a different view of God in their life. So they particularly they had good questions and seemed really to just embrace what was being shared. And then, like Scott just shared, our conversations that we had in the Dakotas and Montana with Chris and Miles about, who God may partner us with in the future and the potential for folks coming here and to Lower Brule. I was able to have some good conversations with Josh Manning, who's the academic dean there. And then also you mentioned as well, Jason, the president of the school. And so, yeah, they're open to that. However God may lead in terms of students graduating from IBC. Sometimes they stay on at the college to help with various roles or when their time is finished there. If they identify some that really have a heart for the local church and want to go back to their church or want to go back to a church somewhere else across the country on a reservation or whatever situation that might be, somebody serious for the Lord that's really wanting to be used by Him, growing in grace and their identity. The school does teach a good bit of identity truth. And so, somebody that's serious. So, it was some nice conversation with them about potentially growing our partnership with them so that if God raises up individuals to be identified that, moving forward, that we can partner together. So that was nice, have those conversations. Yeah, and then from there, I went straight to Ecuador, to Cuenca, and saw Juan and Tirsa and IGV Cuenca Church there. And we'd seen Juan and Tirsa a good bit this year. They came for both boys' weddings, and then for family camp, and then for Global Church Week. But it was nice to be at the church there. And so I was there on the Sundays. It was nice to be a part of their service on Sunday and just see the body of Christ gathering together on Sunday morning. And then they had a gathering that Sunday evening at their house for folks from the church to come. And then again, a Tuesday brunch for folks from the church to come. Yeah, it's good to be with the body there. And the church there is growing. And I think numerically and also spiritually. And anytime there's growth, there's with it comes challenges. And so there's good things that God's doing, but there's also some challenges that the Lord is bringing them through there. But yeah, the church is growing and moving forward. So it's good to be with them in person. It had been, I think, 3.5 years since we had been down there.
Right.
So it had been a while since we had been down there and been with the church. It's just good to be there in person with them.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And you mentioned Global Church Week, so we're not going to take too much time talking about it because we have another episode that's going to come out about it. But
no spoilers.
No spoilers.
Okay.
But that's one of the reasons that you guys don't travel as much on the years that we have Global Church Week, because we're bringing so many people here. So I don't know if Scott, you want to go first, and then Jim, just share like the briefest highlights for you from that week.
Share, but don't spoil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the main highlights for me was traditionally the way that we always did the week was people would fly in over the weekend, and then right away Monday morning we're taking them down to Harrisonburg to Massanetta Springs for a week of just being together and studying and that kind of thing, and then come back Friday morning and then here for that one weekend. And then everybody leaves Monday. And that was the extent of their involvement at FBC. In 2015, we decided to change it to where we would still meet together during the day, but we would hold it all here at FBC rather than taking them away, just to try and increase the engagement and involvement with the body. And it's grown from that. And so everything we do, all the events that we have it's all geared, for the purpose of just facilitating engagement with as much of the body as possible. The children, the youth, the adults. And so that means this was the 6th time that we've held the whole thing here at FBC. And what stood out to me was it just really seemed to me like it used to be that it was just the missions committee and the global partners that had the closest relationship. Now I'm seeing, just as close relationships among many of the people in our church that aren't a part of the missions team, that, have been hosting, and that attend the events and really maximizing the opportunity to interact with our global partners. And I just felt like there's just a growing depth of relationship that's taking place between our church as a body, as a whole body, and our global partners. And that was really exciting to see. And just the feedback that I've gotten from the global partners about just how wonderful the time was, and just how thankful they were, and thankful for this body, and just the love and care that showed. And so,
yeah. So, Jim, what about you?
Yeah, it had been a couple times since we had gone away for like a retreat.
Yeah.
Let's see, it would have been 4 years ago. I think we went to Sight and Sound, did like an outing that way. 2 years ago, we went to the Ark and did an outing that way, instead of going to like a retreat and having fellowship with our global partners. So it was nice to do that again. And so we had 2 full days together. One of the days we took to do some studying of different things. And then the second day, or the part of the first day, and then the second day, we actually had folks share just what God was doing in their lives and what God was doing in their ministries, because they had shared that with the church, but they had never actually been able to hear each other share it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it was nice for them to, and then what they shared was kind of the same, but then also it was different. I think it went to another level of maybe intimacy that they felt comfortable to share with just
Right.
themselves instead of the church at large. So that was also just real enjoyable to hear what the Lord was doing in their lives and then also in their ministry. So yeah, that time together, the final few days that we had together at Priestfield Retreat Center was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really special. Kind of carrying along with that theme is what, as you reflect back on the year, on the trips, on what you guys were teaching, the conversations that you've had, what is there any like big idea or truth about God or his grace or anything that you felt like just kept coming up or you were reminded of through this past year? So Scott, I'll come your way first and see.
Truths about God. I mean, in terms of just being encouraged by what I see God doing, I'm really encouraged with the doors that he seems to be opening, the momentum he seems to be building on the Native American ministry front, but then also in Africa with these different fields, with the EMS field coordinators that we've been working with and partnering with.
Yeah.
Joshua Yakubu came to our global church week a couple days early so that we could have a time of strategizing about next steps for working with these field coordinators and establishing those fields. And I'm really excited about the direction that God has led us to and what we're going to be doing. We're going to be beginning, and I suppose we'll probably have another podcast where we talk about 2026. But we're going to begin in February with another round of visiting the fields and not having the giant conferences like we had last time, but really focusing on trying to establish the leadership teams and equip them to be able to equip the rest of the missionaries and pastors and churches that are on their fields. I think in terms of my own life, in view of God, I just find that the more the more I just continue to teach through knowing God, teach through the meta narrative, teach through our finished work of Christ centered lessons, the more I grow in the knowledge of Him and grace, and I just love just keeping the big picture in view. I love putting everything in the context of the big picture. And one of the things that I've really, really enjoyed and that and I have the opportunity to do as I teach the meta narrative and teach through knowing God and some of these trips that we've had is to just show, because a lot of times Christians, I think, are confused. When you're confused about God and you're confused about the greatness of God and the heart of God, you become confused about a lot of other things. And I think we become confused about the Christian life. We become confused about Satan and, exactly who he is and what he's capable of and his relationship with God and the power struggle, that we think is going on. And I love beginning with Colossians 1:16 and then just showing, from Lucifer's rebellion all the way through history, up to today, God has been using him in his plan to reveal himself, to reveal the Messiah, and now to establish us in the faith. Like actually using Satan to establish us in the faith. And I just love, that perspective, and I love opening people's eyes to that perspective.
Yeah.
And so that's been I think that's been a real highlight for me.
Yeah. Yeah. What a gift. Yeah. What about you, Jim?
This year we did Ephesians twice.
Okay.
We did it with the first group in Nigeria, like what Scott said, and then we did it with a group in Kenya, like what you mentioned. And there's a truth there, when we come into Ephesians chapter 4, chapters 1, 2, and 3 is about who God has made us to be and our position in Him and our identity with Him. And then chapter 4 moves into walking in light of who God has already made us to be, and talks about the oneness that we have with Him, and then the oneness that we have with the body. And so it talks about maintaining the unity of the faith. And in my own life, a number of years ago, I can specifically remember that in terms of like conflict with people and relationships with people, that struck me that I actually am already at unity with the person that I'm having conflict with. This is a believer, a fellow believer. And so, again, this is in light of what's true of 1 through 3.
Right,
And it's
right.
not trying to make something happen, but it's the result of what has already happened in 1 through 3. Now we're in 4. And so it was a big impact with me. And so teaching through that twice, in both of those locations, people came up to me and said, man, that actually resonated, because there's nobody in life that doesn't have conflict with somebody
Right.
else. We all have conflict with people to some degree or another.
Yep.
But if this person is a believer that we're having conflict with, then we actually are already one with that individual.
Yeah.
So we're not trying to attain something, but we're trying to, it's more of a maintaining what we already have. So it was a real perspective shift for me several years ago, and being able to communicate that to folks. Several folks said that really resonated with them. It was a real help to them. And then also some conversations after Global Church Week, just in the past couple of weeks. So that's kind of a takeaway for me, I think, this year that came out of being able to go through Ephesians a couple of times.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so cool. But speaking of Ephesians, so obviously you guys, you're here a lot. I mean, you travel quite a bit, but you're here a lot. And so some of what you guys are doing is going through the curriculums that you guys have written and rewriting them. So, and Ephesians is one of them that has recently been rewritten. So can you guys talk a little bit about what you worked on in terms of the curriculum revisions this year? So Scott, if you want to share.
Well, because of my knee issues, I had more time to work on the lessons than I was planning.
Yeah.
And which that turned out to be a blessing. So yeah, leading up to this year, I'd already revised. So we have two sets of lessons. We have the foundational series, and then we have the digging deeper series. And so, the idea is that we teach people through the foundational series first, and then through the digging deeper. And so, it's like Peter says at the end of 2 Peter 3:18, he boils everything down to, but grow in the grace and knowledge of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And so, that's happened in our own lives through the years, as we've been involved with teaching and discipling other people and teaching through the lessons and reteaching. The result is that you continue to grow in grace and the knowledge of God. And I think, our ability to communicate those truths becomes clearer and we become more effective. And the result is some of these lessons that were written years and years and years ago, okay, we're just really seeing the need to revise and change how things are worded. And then in some instances, there's just things that we just don't agree with anymore and just, really want to move away from it. And so there's, that's kind of the motivation behind wanting to change them. So leading up to this year, I'd already revised the Digging Deeper Romans and Ephesians. And then since January this year, I redid our Creation to Christ, which is we call now God's Eternal Plan. And then I also began working on the foundational series of lessons. I did Romans, the foundational version. Jim did Acts. And so, Yeah, it's a beginning. We want to keep going with it because they need it, and I'm really happy with the revisions that have taken place and where we've landed on some of these. I think I think the content is clearer, and so I'm excited to continue on with that. So
yeah. And Jim, what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, so I worked on Acts, and this revision of Acts was the foundational series, so it wasn't the Going Deeper series. So we weren't trying to necessarily cover every verse and cover the details and the idiosyncrasies of every verse. So what I did, and I think what was clear to do was, obviously it's going to follow right after Knowing God. So you would go through Knowing God, and then you would move into Acts. And so the Knowing God lessons is knowing God, who he has revealed himself to be. So what is God showing about himself through the stories we read, through his interaction with people? How is he revealing himself? So I kept that same theme, just moved right into the book of Acts. And so what do we continue to see about the heart of God, and what is God revealing about himself, and God's divine intervention with the beginning of the church in the book of Acts. So hopefully there's flow there. I think there is, as we get chances to continue to teach through it. When we teach through lessons, there's always, early on especially, there's always, some adjustments and change this, redo that, rewrite that. But I think that's the idea behind the foundational series of the book of Acts, is just really to follow the theme of knowing God.
Then it becomes God's establishment of the church, and not the apostles' establishment of the church.
That's right.
Yeah. No, and so a student and I went through Knowing God last year in preparation for the Kenya trip. And so then after that, we decided to keep going. So we're actually doing Acts right now. And she keeps saying, she's like, it's just like knowing God. Like it's just all about what God is doing to establish his church. And so it so perfectly flows together and ties back. So
that's good feedback.
That's great feedback.
No, it's seeing the heart of God and establishing his church. So it's pretty incredible. So it's been really good. Well, thank you guys so much for taking the time to come and share about what God did in 2025. And I know sounds like there's some really exciting things on the horizon God has in store for Global Missions in 2026. And even like you were saying, like your knee ended up being an issue, but it turned out to be a blessing in terms of the curriculum and the things that you were able to do, even though you weren't able to make all those trips. Jim had to solo travel some of the time, but just how it's all about what God's doing, and we can make our plans, but it's what he's doing. So, so thank you guys so much. And then we talk about the curriculums, and those are available in the stairwell for anybody who wants to go through them. I recommended them. They've been so impactful for me and my faith, and I know that they can be great for everybody else. So thank you for being a part of today's episode. If you want to learn more about our global church partners, make sure you check out the stairwell right next to the North Main entrance. Each month, the Grace Ministry of Global Missions highlights a different global church partner. And this month, we are highlighting Curtis and Michelle Thompson and Reborn Church in Chicago. And so in the stairwell, you can find info sheets about them and the church, as well as prayer requests and activities for the kids. For all of our listeners and viewers, remember that we love to hear from you. You can always send us your thoughts, questions, requests at fbcva.org/podcast. Thank you for watching and listening. And remember that it is Christ who is continually building his church until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God.